Welcome into today's deep dive. We are unpacking a really fascinating stack of source material for you today.
Yeah, it's a genuinely great set of sources we've got.
Right. Specifically, it's a compelling panel discussion from a broadcast called To the Point with Big Bobby.
Which is such a great name, by the way.
It really is. And the focus of this panel is the current state of the music industry in the Caribbean nation of Antigua and Barbuda.
And it gets intense. I mean, they really get into it.
Oh, for sure. So our mission today is to solve this central mystery for you. Like, why is a nation that is just bursting with deep cultural history, incredible rhythmic traditions, and artists who are known for these energetic live performances,
Right.
why are they struggling so hard to build a sustainable, internationally competitive music industry?
Yeah, and we are looking at basically a masterclass in what happens when a sector has all the raw ingredients, but they are working from, the completely wrong recipe.
Yes.
The panel features these industry veterans, producers, songwriters, and performers. And they're diagnosing these structural failures in real time.
And they're living it.
Yeah, they are living this reality, and they absolutely do not hold back.
No, they don't. So to give you a framework for what we are about to explore, imagine for a second that you own a sports franchise.
Okay, I like where this is going.
Right. So you managed to draft these incredible, once-in-a-generation superstar athletes. They've got raw power, natural agility.
Just pure, unadulterated talent.
Exactly. But here's the catch. You draft these superstars, but you completely forget to build a stadium.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
You never hire a head coach. You don't establish a front office to handle contracts. You have no trainers to rehabilitate injuries and, no marketing team to sell tickets.
So you just have the players.
Right. You just drop these athletes into an empty grass field and expect them to somehow win a global championship.
Well, I mean, the talent is just going to burn out. Or, more likely, they're going to get frustrated and leave for a team that actually has a locker room and a playbook.
Right. Exactly.
Because without structural support, potential just doesn't scale.
Yeah.
And that systemic failure is exactly what is happening to musical talent in Antigua and Barbuda right now.
It is. So let's start by looking at the symptoms of this failure, which the source material highlights through a pretty shocking revelation from one of the local industry's most respected veterans.
Yeah, CP.
Right. She goes by CP, and she is widely regarded as the Queen of Antigua.
Which is quite the title.
It is, and she earned it. She's a multiple-time Calypso champion who has been a vocal force on regional and international stages for over 2 decades.
So she knows what she's talking about.
She really does. And she's
Right.
calling out a steep across-the-board decline in the quality of local artists right now.
Yeah, CP notes a deterioration in almost every facet of the craft. She is seeing a severe drop-off in production quality, lyrical writing, vocal training, and stage presence.
And to understand the gravity of this, you really have to understand the genres we're talking about here.
Right. Calypso and soca.
Yeah. Calypso and its more up-tempo descendant, soca, are not just beats. Calypso has roots in West African traditions.
It's historically a medium for storytelling, right?
Exactly. Storytelling, social commentary, and journalism for the working class. It requires immense lyrical wit and a commanding stage presence to deliver the message.
Right. So when CP says lyrical writing and stage presence are declining, she is basically saying the foundational pillars of the culture's primary musical expression are eroding.
Which is huge. And the most alarming symptom for her was a recent event she attended. She visited the registration for a major local Calypso and soca competition.
What does she see?
She witnessed what she believes is the lowest registration turnout in the island's history.
Wow. That's alarming.
Right. For a culture so deeply intertwined with music, the pipeline of new talent is literally drying up at the source. And she brings up this massive, almost tragic paradox to explain it.
Yeah, the internet paradox. CP reflects on her own early days coming up in the industry. She points out that artists back then didn't have the internet.
They didn't have, YouTube tutorials on diaphragm breathing.
No. Or master classes on song structure.
Yeah.
They had to figure out how to operate professionally through sheer grit and local mentorship.
You had to physically go to the local studio, sit with the elders, and learn the ropes through trial and error.
Exactly. But today, obviously, the internet provides infinite resources.
Right. An aspiring artist in Antigua can pull out their phone and instantly watch a breakdown of how the biggest pop songs in the world are mixed and mastered.
They can read contracts, learn the music business from global experts, download world-class production software.
Yet despite having all of human knowledge in their pockets, participation and professional development are actually shrinking.
It makes no sense on paper.
It really doesn't. How do we have more access to information than at any point in human history, but less actual output?
Well, the thing is, access to information does not automatically equal structural growth.
Explain that a bit more.
Sure. So if you don't have a foundational framework to process that information, the internet isn't an educational tool. It is literally just noise.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So when an aspiring artist watches a documentary on how a multi-platinum album is made, they see teams of audio engineers, vocal producers, and session musicians.
Right.
But when they look around their own local environment, none of that exists.
Yeah.
The gap between what they see online and what they can actually achieve locally becomes overwhelming.
See, let me push back on the framing here just a little bit.
Go ahead and go for it.
Could the internet actually be the culprit rather than just ineffective noise?
How so?
Well, think about it this way. It's like giving someone access to every masterclass recipe in the world. You hand them Gordon Ramsay's personal cookbook,
Okay.
but they don't have a working kitchen.
Ah, I see.
The kitchen, in this case, is the local industry infrastructure, like affordable studio time, vocal coaches, entertainment lawyers, managers.
Yeah, right.
Because they don't have that kitchen, nobody is actually cooking. They're just paralyzed by how complicated the recipe looks.
Yeah, and take that a step further. It isn't just about the complexity of the recipe. It's about the psychological barrier of global comparison,
Ooh, yes.
right? When CP was coming up without the internet, her immediate benchmark was the singer down the street.
Right, you could realistically measure your progress against your peers in your own neighborhood.
Exactly. Today, an untrained teenager in Antigua writes their first song, records a voice memo, and immediately compares it to a fully mastered track by a global superstar on Spotify.
Oh, that's brutal.
It is. They feel like they're competing with the entire global industry on day one. It is deeply intimidating, and it creates this massive barrier to entry that suppresses participation.
So true. But, the reason they are paralyzed by the internet isn't just a lack of local studios, though. It's because the only local outlet they actually have to showcase their talent is a cutthroat competition. Which brings us to the actual structural flaw preventing these artists from utilizing their talents.
Yes, and we get this insight from Mr. Hector.
Yeah, he's a veteran producer on the panel.
He is, and his diagnosis is highly controversial within the local scene. He actually mentions in the broadcast that he stayed out of these conversations for years because his previous warnings made him, quote, too many enemies.
Which is wild. So what is Hector's grand controversial theory?
Well, his core argument is that the local industry's fatal flaw is a singular, obsessive focus on competition.
Right.
He famously warned the government years ago about funding this system, comparing their entire musical model to the television show American Idol.
And he notes he made this comparison before that show even existed, right?
Exactly. He saw the American Idol trap before American Idol was even a thing.
That's amazing.
Yeah, Hector argues that while competition is a cultural tradition and, it's highly engaging for the community as a festival, a competition is not an industry.
Right, those are two very different things.
The government and private sponsors have historically poured all their funding into these annual contest prizes. Meanwhile, the actual commerce side of the industry has been entirely neglected.
So the whole ecosystem was hollowed out in favor of just funding contests.
Pretty much.
But wait, let's look at this from a business perspective. We are consistently taught that in a free market, competition drives innovation.
Yeah.
It forces everyone to get better, to lower prices, to improve the product. If artists are fighting for a crown and a cash prize, shouldn't that force them to write better songs and perform at a higher level?
You would think so.
Right. So why is Hector saying competition is destroying the music scene?
Because you are confusing capitalist innovation with contest survival.
Oh, interesting. Break that down.
They operate on entirely different incentive structures. In a standard competitive market, companies innovate to capture a broad consumer base, which leads to long-term sustainable growth.
Like a record label competing for listeners by developing an artist whose music will be streamed for decades.
Exactly. But in a contest-based music model, the goal isn't to build a sustainable fan base.
What is it?
The goal is simply to win the favor of a few judges on one specific night to get a cash prize.
Ah, it makes the entire ecosystem a zero-sum game.
Precisely. If I am a producer with a fantastic new beat and you are a great songwriter, in a normal industry, we collaborate.
Right, we build a hit, we share the royalties, and we both rise.
Yes, but in a contest model, if I share my best beat with you, You might use it to beat me in the Calypso Monarch competition next week.
Oh, wow, yeah. That completely changes the dynamic.
The structure systematically destroys the collaborative ecosystem needed to nurture long-term careers. People hoard their talent, keep secrets, and view their peers as immediate threats rather than potential collaborators.
Because all the money is tied up in the single championship game. We're back to the sports analogy.
We really are.
We are funding the shiny trophy and the halftime show, but we completely forgot to build the minor leagues. There is no player development at all.
None. And Hector points out that the foundational elements of an industry are missing because of this. Most importantly, there is no A&R.
A&R, so that stands for artists and repertoire, right?
Right. In a functioning music industry, these are the professionals whose entire job is to scout raw talent, match them with the right producers, help them find their unique sound.
And fund their development over years before a single dollar is actually made.
Exactly. A competition operates on a timeline of weeks. A&R operates on a timeline of years.
Right. When the contest ends, the winner gets a check, but there is no infrastructure to ensure they have a career the morning after.
Yeah, they're just left on their own again.
And because the internal ecosystem is fractured by this zero-sum American Idol trap, it severely cripples the artist's ability to do the one thing necessary for survival in a small market.
Which is export their music off the island.
Exactly. You simply cannot export if you do not know how to collaborate.
And this is where Colin Charles enters the conversation.
Right. He's a respected music producer and songwriter who goes by the name American Child.
Yeah, and his perspective is vital here because he actually grew up in New York and London, but with Caribbean roots.
So he has this outside-looking-in view of how global markets actually operate.
Exactly. Charles points out a glaring lack of unity among Antiguan artists and a fundamental failure to push their music outside their own borders.
And he contrasts this with the historical growth of the American music industry, right?
He does. He talks about how, historically, diverse groups of artists would pack onto buses together, maybe 10 different acts, to tour the South and spread their sound collectively.
Like think about the early days of Motown or the Chitlin circuit.
Yeah, it wasn't just one artist trying to make it alone. It was a traveling roadshow that introduced a whole region to a completely new wave of music.
So Charles is highlighting this concept of a unified road.
Yes. By touring together, those American artists weren't just promoting themselves individually. They were solidifying a regional identity.
They were creating a cohesive brand for their style of music that audiences could easily recognize and buy into.
And Charles warns that without this unified approach, Antigua just cannot compete against massive regional heavyweights in the Caribbean who have already mastered this.
He specifically mentions Jamaica and Trinidad. And honestly, it makes perfect sense when you look at how those islands export their culture.
Absolutely.
Like when you think of Jamaica, you immediately think of reggae and dancehall. The world knows the Jamaican sound.
Right.
When you think of Trinidad, you think of soca and calypso. They have cohesive, globally recognized musical identities.
And look at how Jamaica achieved that. Bob Marley and the Wailers didn't just happen in a vacuum.
Right, they had backing.
There was an infrastructure figures like Chris Blackwell and Island Records that took a local sound, polished it, and presented a unified front to a global audience.
The sound system culture in Jamaica was highly collaborative, right?
Yeah.
Even when it was competitive, it pushed the culture outward.
Exactly. International markets require collective infrastructure to penetrate. You cannot beat the cohesive, unified branding of the Jamaican music industry with fragmented, isolated Antiguan talent that only knows how to compete against each other for a local prize.
But let's look at the logistics of Colin Charles's specific historical comparison for a second, though.
Okay.
The idea of the American tour bus artists packing into a vehicle and driving across state lines to build an audience makes sense on a massive landmass.
Sure, yeah.
But can you actually replicate a continental tour bus model on a Caribbean island? Geographically, you hit the ocean pretty fast.
Very fast.
You can't just drive to the next major market. So does the modern tour bus for island nations need to be entirely digital?
That's a great question.
Like, if they lack physical borders to cross in a bus, shouldn't they be forming a unified online collective? Almost like a digital record label where all the top Antiguan artists cross-pollinate their audiences online, rather than trying to physically tour together right away.
Well, the digital bus is a logical modernization, but look at the mechanics of how that digital bus has to operate.
What do you mean?
A bus still requires a driver, and it requires passengers willing to sit next to each other.
Ah, right.
Even online, if artists are trained by the contest model to view each other as rivals, they won't share each other's links. They won't feature on each other's tracks.
And the internet algorithm heavily rewards clustered engagement, right?
Exactly. Scenes, movements, groups of artists interacting with each other. If Antiguan artists are actively preventing that cross-pollination because they are worried about next year's competition, a digital collective will fail just as fast as a physical one.
So they have to overcome the contest mindset before they can even board the digital bus.
100%.
They have to realize that sharing an audience isn't dividing the pie, it is baking a much larger pie.
That's a great way to put it.
A unified digital front presents a massive target for global algorithms. 10 artists hyping each other up online will always reach further than 10 artists silently fighting over one local crown.
Yeah, and what this whole panel discussion reveals is an industry at a fascinating, critical crossroads.
Definitely.
To survive and thrive, the Antiguan music scene has to make a painful but absolutely necessary transition. They have to pivot away from a purely competitive, contest-based model, which, only serves local entertainment and short-term political or corporate sponsorship goals.
They need to actively build a collaborative commercial infrastructure. It is the unglamorous behind-the-scenes work.
Yes, the heavy lifting.
They need A&R professionals who care about a 5-year career trajectory, not a 5-minute stage performance.
Yeah.
They need dedicated artist development, legal representation to secure international publishing rights, and a unified regional export strategy that treats the island's music as a singular, powerful brand.
And for you, listening to this deep dive, the broader takeaway here is applicable far beyond just the music industry.
Oh, absolutely.
We live in an era where raw talent and infinite raw data are universally accessible.
Yeah.
But as we've seen today, having the ingredients and the recipe means nothing if you refuse to build the kitchen.
Right.
Structural frameworks, collaborative ecosystems, and long-term incentives are what actually turn raw potential into sustainable global success.
You can draft the greatest athletes in the world, but if you don't build the stadium, you're just playing in the dirt.
Exactly.
But before we wrap up today, I want to leave you with a final provocative thought to mull over. Something that builds on the export deficit our experts discussed, but flips the perspective entirely.
Okay, let's hear it.
So we've talked extensively about how local competitions are failing and how trying to export music against established giants like Jamaica and Trinidad is this massive uphill battle.
Right.
But what if an island nation could leverage its very geographic isolation as a strength?
Wait, how would that work in practice?
Well, instead of trying to put their artists on a physical or digital tour bus to reach the world, what if they built a music infrastructure so exclusive, so culturally immersive, and so undeniable that the world had to travel to them to experience it?
Oh, wow.
What if, instead of exporting the music, you turn the island itself into the ultimate destination stadium?
You were talking about reversing the flow of the industry entirely.
Exactly.
Instead of fighting for a sliver of the global streaming algorithm, you make the physical location the premium product.
Think about what that looks like. Imagine bespoke, high-end recording studios built into the cliffs of Antigua, where global pop stars have to travel to collaborate with local Antiguan producers to get that authentic sound.
Oh, that sounds incredible.
Right. Imagine immersive, week-long cultural music festivals that are seamlessly integrated with the local tourism board. Like, not a contest for locals, but a premium curated showcase designed for international music fans.
That completely changes the economic model.
Yeah.
It moves from a traditional music export business to high-value cultural tourism.
Exactly.
The local artists don't just sell a song. They are selling the entire atmosphere, the food, the climate, and the culture that produced the song.
Yeah.
It makes the music an experiential commodity that cannot be pirated or perfectly replicated anywhere else in the world.
You got it. You stop trying to play the same game as the massive regional heavyweights, and you create a brand new game where you have home field advantage.
I love that.
You build the stadium, you curate the experience, and you let the global fans come to you. It is a completely different way to look at the intersection of music, geography, and industry.
It really is.
And it's definitely something to think about. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you on the next one.